Another hurricane landfall on the Gulf Coast. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals. That is Hurricane Delta, having made landfall roughly around 6 o'clock Friday evening, October 9th, 2020, in southwestern Louisiana, pretty close to Cameron, where Hurricane Laura made landfall. Maximum wind at that point, 100 miles an hour, gusting to 125. It's approaching, at least the eye wall, approaching parts of Lake Charles, also hit pretty hard by Hurricane Laura, but there's a problem, and the problem is Hurricane Laura destroyed the Doppler radar in Lake Charles, Louisiana. That means there is some missing data, but fortunately other National Weather Service radars will fill in those data gaps. So there will be some data that we just will never know, as is always the case with hurricanes. Compare Delta to Laura and to Sally. Laura was a strong Category 4, winds of 150 miles an hour at landfall. Delta had winds of 100 miles an hour, just a little less than those of Hurricane Sally. However, both Delta and Laura were moving steadily versus Hurricane Sally, which was virtually not moving at landfall, so that was a devastating storm. In terms of the hurricane force wind, the radius, Delta and Sally about the same, but Laura was a much more broad storm. So even though Delta is not as strong as Laura, it's going over the same spot, and that means more trouble for things that are already compromised. That was the satellite mid-afternoon, and there was a clue that this was going to move steadily. First of all, you see the air circulating into the hurricane from all directions, nothing unusual there. But once you got to about 15,000 feet, you saw a steady north wind on the east side of the storm, and at about 30,000 feet, 35,000 feet, a southwest to northeast wind. So that told you that this storm, Hurricane Delta, would keep on moving, which it has done so. The satellite, this one's color enhanced to show something that's not always obvious. You watch those bright red colors. When it was offshore, a big blob of red. The closer it got to the coast, the smaller that blob got. And that was a sign that the storm was losing a little intensity. So it did not strengthen. It actually kept losing wind strength going toward the coastline. Forecast track is going to take it to western Tennessee as a tropical storm going into Saturday. Those of us in the NBC 15 area, we have to watch out for a few things. Not so much rain. We'll pick up a couple, maybe several inches of rain, mostly for Saturday, tomorrow. Southwestern Louisiana, central Louisiana sees 5 to 10 inches of rain. But what we are going to be aware of is wind. There's a wind advisory, and that simply means be advised overnight into tomorrow that steady winds are going to pick up 20 to 25 miles an hour. They're also going to gust. So here's a map, a forecast map, showing the projected wind. What you see in blue, less than 20 miles an hour. In green is about 20 to 30 miles an hour. And then the yellow, that's over 30 miles an hour. So before the sun comes up, we'll see winds along our coastline, along our beaches, 25 to 35 miles an hour. They will gust to over 40. Notice along the I-10 corridor, steady winds, 25 miles an hour. So it does become a steady, windy day through the morning. By mid-morning, with a south wind, around Mobile into Lucedale, Mississippi, even Atmore, Grove Hill, winds 20 to 25 miles an hour. And notice that orange in Mobile Bay. So even though the winds onshore will be 20 to 25, in the middle of the bay, they could be 30 to 35. And that's going to push water up to the causeway, and water will likely splash over the barrier onto the eastbound lane of the causeway. Happens all the time with a strong south wind. From early morning to mid-afternoon, the winds begin to slack off and subside, so that by the time we get to sunset, we'll see average winds about 15 miles an hour, maybe 20 miles an hour at the coast. So wind advisory, and I mentioned that the wind pushing the water to the north, that's called storm surge. It could be as much as 1 to 3 feet above the typical tide. We are actually going toward a high tide at 5 a.m. So as the winds pick up around sunrise, before sunrise, that's when you're most likely to see the water levels move up. And even though the natural tide cycle goes down, with the wind staying up, that water may stay up for most of the morning and then rapidly fall in the afternoon once the winds ease up. So that's one impact for our area. We go through the evening, and tonight, isolated showers, a few thunderstorms, and then late night, the possibility, a 1 in 5 possibility for seeing an isolated severe storm in that outer rain band that could produce a tornado. Same thing as we go through the day. That was actually reversed, but same thing also for Saturday. So here's the forecast map for us in the NBC 15 area. 5 o'clock in the morning, we'll watch for one of those bands to be moving toward us. There'll be some isolated showers ahead of us, a south wind along that band, and as it moves from west to east, the winds will especially pick up as the rain falls. So that's when we could see a quick period of 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rain as that main band moves across the area, with the possibility for an isolated tornado. It's not a certainty, it's a possibility. By about 2 in the afternoon, things will be less wet along the Mississippi-Alabama state line, and then eventually by sunset, that band should be out of here. So that is the main thing to look out for as you're moving around during the day on Saturday. Your 7-day tracker shows we'll go 80 to 90% rain coverage. It'll be a windy day, and then once we get through late afternoon Saturday, things will calm for Sunday. There'll be a couple of showers, but Sunday will be a breezy day, middle 80s. And look what we are rewarded with once we get into Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. A calm period, a dry period, and nights that go back into the 60s. All of that in the wake of Hurricane Delta. We still have a little while to go in hurricane season, so stay updated, stay informed. I'm NBC 15 Chief Meteorologist Alan Seals.